following is an extended product spotlight paid for by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola. Hey everybody, I'm Sean Haney, host of Real Ag Radio on Rural Radio 147 Sirius XM and the founder of realagriculture.com. Thanks for listening and welcome to the next episode of the Canola Podcast, sponsored by Invigor Hybrid Canola from BASF. The Canola Podcast is a series where we discuss useful tips and tools growers can take to the field to help grow a more successful crop. Don't forget to also visit canolaschool.com to see agronomic videos on demand when you need the information from Real Agriculture and BASF. Today we're talking about the Agronomic Excellence Trial Program that BASF has for Invigor. We'll take you through what the trial program looks like and hear from a grower on their experiences with the program. All to help you make more informed decisions when selecting Invigor canola hybrids for your farming operation. Today on the Canola Podcast, I'm joined by Derek Lewis, part of the Agronomic Excellence team at BASF, and Ray Mazinke, a grower from Morris, Manitoba. Okay, let's get started. Let's start with you, Derek. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I am the agronomy manager with the Agronomic Excellence team. I'm based in Winnipeg, and my research region is South Central and Southeast Manitoba. I've been with the Invigor team at BASF this is the 10th season we've been doing these research trials. And we have agronomists across Western Canada with similar roles to myself.
Yeah, did you grow up on a farm?
I did not. I grew up in Winnipeg, and I just love being outside. I love equipment, and I've always loved kind of the cropping system. So that's what got me into it.
Okay, great stuff. Awesome. Okay, Ray, give us some of your background. Tell us about your farming history, where you grow, which crops, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, my farming history dates back to probably my grandfather, who would have initially started the farm in the early 1900s. My dad took over from there, and then I farmed with my brothers for quite some time. I still do farm with one of my brothers, but I also farm with my 3 sons and 1 son-in-law. And we used to have livestock, but now we're just grain. We grow, being in this southern Manitoba area, we grow quite a few different crops, or have the option to grow quite a few different crops. So we'd be, wheat, oats, barley, sunflowers. We grow a little bit of bird food, millet. We have grown canary seed, soybeans, corn. So lots of flexibility there. And that's probably sums it up.
Yeah, lots of agronomic options there for sure. So, Derek, walk us through the Agronomic Excellence Program and what it encompasses and what makes it up.
For sure. So the Agronomic Excellence Program, it's a really unique research program to BASF. We started, like I said, 10 years ago, and there's a few things that make it really unique. The first thing is the type of equipment we're using. So it's a research program out in grower fields, but we're using commercial field scale equipment, which is pretty unique in the industry. So we've got commercial combines and sprayers and seeders. We run trials across Western Canada. So this year we'd have around 45 trials in grower fields, working with growers like Ray. And we're running canola agronomy research trials. So, we're running trials that are of interest to growers. So things like seeding rates and seeding depths and row spacing, that's the kind of things we work on. We're working in grower fields, which is important so that we're collecting data that's relevant to their local region. The equipment we're using has been locally adapted. So the seeders we're using, not every agronomist, like I said, we have agronomists across Western Canada. Not every agronomist has the same equipment. I have a seeder with disc openers. We have some with hole openers. So it's really regionally adapted so that we know we're collecting data relevant to the region. The trials we work on range from, like I said, seeding rates and depths, but also one of the most important ones we work on is the hybrid evaluations. So we've got trials across the prairies where we're taking our commercial hybrids that are available right now, and we're putting those up against some potential new hybrids and also competitor hybrids. So in a field, we might have 20 to 22 hybrids side by side in a field, and we're putting those through the program, and we're collecting all the agronomic data on those, so we can see, kind of what's regionally adapted and what grows best in each region, and we can make recommendations to growers.
Great stuff. And so, Ray, how long have you been doing trials with Derek?
I believe Derek and I were talking about that, and I think it's either 2015 or 2016 that we ventured into our first trial, and I think we've done one every year other than the year we had a fairly major flood there a couple of years ago.
So what prompted you to have trials and work with a company like BASF on this agronomic excellence program?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. Back in my university days, I spent a couple of years doing research and kind of got to understand how the plot work was. And sometimes the hardest thing about plots is the seeding. And I must say, Derek and his group do a phenomenal job. As you get the seed out of the ground, you're on the way to a good plot. And also in my travels and prior to farming full time, I at one point in my life ran a egg retail for about 10 or 12 years. And I started up a seed sales. And I always like to go to trials with some of my customers at that time and look at plants, crops that were growing at certain stages. For canola, maybe at the flowering stage, you're just shutting down and seeing how it would stand, stand the building and whatnot. And it always was it was confidence for the person selling it and also reassurance for the person buying it. So I always thought it was a great idea. And going back to some other companies that did very well in marketing by having farmer trials and plots in the past.
Yeah, Ray, can you think of a specific example of where you decided to use or try one hybrid over another by using some of this experience through the trialing program?
Oh, it's nice with Derek's plots, and he's got a number of different varieties. And you get a chance to see them side by side. You get a really good look at how they, in the case of canola, because we're talking about canola, how they pod, how they, how they stand off the ground, how the plant actually, whether it lodges or not, and all the attributes. And for us, I mean, we're not as concerned about the length of time it takes to grow because we've got a pretty long season, so we're usually looking at the longer season types. So it's just awesome to be able to compare and to look and see something like, hey, this really looks like a winner for, whatever reason that you can see, and you can go give it a shot next year.
Yeah. And so, Ray, does having a trial, does it impact the decision you make on what hybrid you're going to grow next year?
It can. I mean, the trial's got to be run properly. Like I mentioned back in my research days, sometimes we, had a little difficulty with our equipment. And I won't mention companies or anything, but, if you start off with a trial where you have a very poor emergence or you did a bad job seeding, or sometimes you just get unlucky, that doesn't teach you much. It doesn't show you much. But one thing with Derek's group, they've always had incredible emergence, and the trial is always very worthwhile looking at because it's valuable when it comes up like you want to see your field come up. So a lot of times you might see early vigor, or you might see like, wow, look at the size of those pods or the standability. And there's always something you can pick up, and he's always got something new in there every year.
Yeah, and the key is it's results in your area on your farm, right? So you can really apply some of that information to your own operation, of course.
Precisely. A lot of times, we in the past, sometimes for other crops, you maybe rely on a McVet trial, which is, more government, but it's a very small plot. And sometimes they only have 3 in the province. It might be Dauphin and, Boissevain, and it doesn't really pertain to here. So, I'm very excited to have data right, not only on my field, but our area.
Now, Derek, after everything is harvested, what happens with the results? Where do they go and how are they found?
For sure. So, as the season's going on, like we've got a large data set we're collecting through the course of the season. We're always, as the season's going on, we're looking at the data. We're making sure that we're collecting data off quality plots. So as the season goes on, we're constantly looking at the trials. And so there could be certain trials that are thrown out before we get to harvest. As you get generally, like if you get kind of the extreme years, like extreme drought or extreme wet, might get some higher variability in the trials. So, we're always looking at the trials, and some trials might get thrown out before you even get to harvest, just because we've got the experience to know that you've got to have quality data going into the database. But once we get the data off the field, we put in the database and we run statistical analysis on it. So like I mentioned, it's replicated trial data. It's 4-rep trial, so you can run stats on it. And you get a really large data set off of the 45 sites we have. So we run a TV on it, which is the coefficient of variation. And that gives it an indication of how much of the variability in the trial was due to the genetic potential of the crop and how much could have been due to, say, the environment in a wet or dry year. And then so we run the stats on it. And any trials that don't make the cutoff for variability, they get thrown out before we go any further. After that, we compile the data and it goes on the InvigorResults.ca website. So all the results for each field, they go online, and we have the current hybrids on there, the competitor hybrids, and we've got all the data on there, whether it's yields or it's days to maturity or lodging. We've compiled all that data, and it all gets posted on the InvigorResults.ca website.
Do you also review it with the grower and look at some of the recommendations?
We do. Like, I'll send Ray, as soon as I get it off the field, I'll send Ray a list of all the yields, and that's kind of his first look at it. And then, sometimes Ray and I will talk in the winter or something. He might have specific questions about hybrids, and, we'll chat about that as well.
And of course, farmers are always interested in yield, but are there other things that you're measuring in these trials to look at some of the results that is information going back to the grower?
Yeah, as Ray was talking about, like for us in Manitoba, the Red River Valley, we're not really concerned about having a hybrid that's fast to maturity, but in other regions there is. So, of course, days to maturity, that becomes really important when you look at some of the hybrids that take longer days to maturity in shorter season zones. That becomes really relevant, getting that information out. But we do everything. We do green seed, and we do dockage, we do moisture and days to maturity. It's kind of the whole range. And we make sure that that's all posted on the website to make sure that we've got the whole picture available on the website, because it is about more than yield. You can have something that yields really high, but like Ray talked about, it's about standability, and how does it come off? What's the harvestability of it? Does it go through the combine nicely? Is it tough to feed through? Those are all things that we collect data on. It's on the website as well.
Big thanks to Derek and Ray for joining us today on the Canola podcast to discuss the Agronomic Excellence Trial Program and how they can help in selecting high-performing and vigor canola hybrids for your farming operation. I want to thank everybody for listening, and don't forget to visit canolaschool.com or the Real Agriculture YouTube channel to check out the videos from Real Agriculture and BASF for all you need to know about growing canola. And those videos, like I mentioned, on demand when you need the info. Have a great rest of your day, and happy harvest.